Next on the docket, a high-profile attorney by Sandy Hook families against the gunmaker Remington, the maker of the AR-15. It's the rifle used to kill 20 first graders and 6 adults. Right now, it's in the hands of the Connecticut Supreme Court. The suit claims the gun company negligently marketed and sold a gun that's basically a weapon of war. Also, the opioid case. Several counties in our area, including Westchester and Nassau, they are suing or planning to sue the major drug companies. They want to hold those big pharmas liable for the opioid epidemic. My next guest, representing some counties in that drug case, Mike Papantonio. He's a prominent, nationally known attorney and syndicated radio talk show host as well. He's also author of a new book called Law and Vengeance. Well, I sat down with him recently to discuss some big cases, his unique insight into. A couple of items in the news I'm curious your perspective on. In our region, there is an interesting case going on in Connecticut, the state Supreme Court, having to do with the Newtown tragedy, and more specifically in this case of Remington, but really any culpability or possible liability gun manufacturers might have. And as we've talked many times in the program, they're shielded in a unique way unlike any other industry. But given how it's moving along, do you think there's any exposure, forget morally, maybe even legally here, that these gun manufacturers might have, given some of the guns like these AR-15s that keep getting used in these mass shootings?
This is obviously a dangerous instrumentality. I mean, it's no different from any other analysis for the dangerous instrumentality. But we've given them immunity, not for any logical reason, but because of the politics of it. If I'm looking at a new way to go into it, obviously the Remington case is a unique case. Remington is a defective product case that gets around the idea of some of that immunity. But it has to be very narrow. The type of causation issue that you're talking about has to be very narrow. And you're going to see immunity being used more and more to shelter so many industries. I'm seeing it with the pharmaceutical industry. Some of these folks creating products that are killing hundreds of people. And they understand the defect, but nevertheless, they're looking for that day when they have immunity. When you see self-driving cars that are going to hit the street, we're going to start seeing immunity there. It's something that's going to eat up the jury system little by little. And
come back to Big Pharma that you mentioned. The Times did an editorial piece recently where they pointed out that, sure, we hear all the language about the war on addictive drugs here and how we can all cooperatively work together. Right. Some of these Big Pharma companies obviously knew the products they were making were highly addictive. They knew about the tragedies unfolding in every single corner of this country. And now, possibly in the case of Purdue, for example, that we're going to give them taxpayer dollars to come up with non-addictive drugs. I mean, it seems like we're actually, you know, profiting the bad actors.
Well, it's worse than that. Full disclosure, I'm handling those cases for Kentucky and Ohio and West Virginia. I'm handling those cases for counties and cities who have lost billions of dollars because of the opioid crisis. But the real problem comes down to the fact that the company not only knew about it, they built it into their business plan. They built what we call drug diversion into their business plan. You would have pill mills doing business on 3rd Street in some town called Somewhere, America. And then you would have the distributor, the salesperson from, say, McKesson or one of the other companies that drive by that pill mill every day. They're well aware of the addiction problem. Under the law, what's so interesting about this, Richard, is under the law, they have a duty not to only report that something's going horribly wrong in this community, wherever it may be, but they have a duty to actually correct the problem. And the way I'll be trying this case is to say that they had direct notice. They clearly knew that the drug addiction was taking place, that the geometric addiction was just growing leaps and bounds. But at the end of all this, we have to understand, we look at these people different because they dress different, Richard. They wear Armani suits. They have Rolex watches. They drive around in Bentleys. It's nothing less than a drug cartel. And until the American public can understand, simply because somebody doesn't look like a criminal, they don't look like a street thug, they have an office on Wall Street. Until we can get past that and understand that the criminal activity took place here, and unfortunately nobody's gone to prison. My goal as I try these cases across the country will be obviously to be able to recover money for these counties that have lost billions of dollars, but to also call enough attention to where we have a Department of Justice that has the courage to say, why do we treat this Armani suit character different than we treat a child out on the corner with a hoodie on who's selling 2 ounces of marijuana so we can have something to eat at the end of the day? I mean, there's all this division of how we have in our justice system. This division is killing democracy. And the opioid crisis is a great example of it.
Again, the book is called Law and Vengeance. Mike Papantonio, I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Bye.